Though the face of Street Fighter is Ryu, Ken Masters is the only other character who's been around and technically been playable since day one. On top of that, he hasn't missed a single mainline Street Fighter entry to date, and has garnered a huge fan base thanks to his fiery personality and playstyle. But who is Ken? Where does he come from? And where might he be going in Street Fighter 6? Well, funny you should ask, because this is the full story of Ken leading into Street Fighter 6. Though he's often billed as an American, Ken is actually 3/4 Japanese. He was born in Japan to wealthy parents who run the Masters Hotel, Hospitality, Hostel, and Resort enterprise, but it turns out they don't have the best of marriages. They fight a lot, and Ken becomes a bit of a delinquent as a result, dyeing his hair blonde in an act of rebellion. It's actually Ken's rebellious phase that causes his parents to come together and focus on the common goal of raising their son. And at age 12, his father sends him to train with a particular martial arts master and friend of the family, Goken. It's here that Ken starts both his fighting journey as well as his brotherly rivalry with Ryu, an orphan who is also under Goken's tutelage. This training goes on for some 10 years until Goken deems both pupils masters of the art of Ansatsuken. The meaning of life for these two at this point is to strive to become the greatest fighters in the world, and Ken leaves Ryu with a friendly ponderance of which of them will become more famous and renowned. Ryu heads to Thailand to do Street Fighter 1 and fight Emperor of Muay Thai Sagat, while Ken heads to America, where he competes in and wins many martial arts tournaments. Sometime before the events of Street Fighter Alpha, Ken meets a young, beautiful woman named Eliza, and she becomes his girlfriend. When word comes around that Ryu has defeated Sagat in a high-profile tournament win, Ken heads out to Japan to reconnect with and fight Ryu, as the two tend to communicate through sparring as much as through speaking. This indeed comes to pass, and Ken actually beats Ryu here, but notices that the shoeless wanderer is distracted and troubled from his fight with Sagat. The reason for this is that Ryu first tapped into his evil Satsui no Hado power to win the fight. To help his buddy out, Ken gives Ryu his red headband, which becomes an iconic part of Ryu's appearance. Because this is Street Fighter, the given solution to Ryu's problems is something along the lines of keep fighting until you find your answers, or your way, or yourself. I don't know, but fighting is the answer is the point, and Ken's headband is meant to remind Ryu of that. Ken then goes on to confront the evil dictator M. Bison, who bests Mr. Masters easily and then hypnotizes him. Bison then uses the brainwashed Ken to lure Ryu out of hiding, which works, but Ryu is able to defeat Ken and then free him from Bison's mind bullets. Ryu then winds up fighting, losing to, and being brainwashed by M. Bison. And though it's Sagat who fights and snaps Ryu out of this trance, Ken helps out by attacking and keeping Bison distracted while Ryu comes to his senses. Ryu then defeats Bison, and everyone goes home happy. Story gets extremely murky in Street Fighter 2, but we do know that Ken falls fully in love with Eliza and kind of abandons his fighter's path for a while. It's not until he receives a letter from Ryu detailing his daily training practices and commitments that Ken regains his fighter's spirit and decides to get back into the swing of things. So Street Fighter 2 kind of happens, and after it all ends, Ken is married to Eliza. Now, Ken wasn't going to do this until he got another decisive win over Ryu, so it's also implied that he and Ryu had another match during Street Fighter 2, but we don't know if this was a tourney bout or not. The story doesn't move chronologically with the game, so next up are the events of Street Fighter 4, where things start getting interesting. So now Ken is a married man, and unbeknownst to him, Eliza is pregnant. He's wisely grown his family business and has again found himself pulled away from the fighting life, but he ultimately seems unwell, stressed out, unbalanced, and, in Eliza's words, not the same Ken that she fell in love with. Eliza looks to tell Ken that she's pregnant, but he's so bogged down by life that she feels it'd be too much, though there are plenty of hints that he misses, such as a child's doll that she recently put on their mantle. Said doll is given to Eliza earlier by secret and double agent C. Viper and has a recording device secretly planted in it. Viper is working for SIN, the Shadaloo Intimidation Network, which is kidnapping high-profile fighters from around the planet with the Satsui no Hado-sensitive Ryu as their main target. They figure the only way to find the elusive Ryu is through his closest friend, and they're right. Sin actually kidnaps Eliza thanks to the work of C. Viper, who notes to Ken that he failed to pay enough attention to his wife to realize what was going on, and thus to protect her. Ken teams up with Ryu and the rest of Team Good Guys as he gets his trademark red gi out of the closet and heads out to rescue Eliza. He does so relatively easily, and she tells him the news about the baby. This helps Ken balance his true nature as a fighter with his family life as he centers in on his role as a protector. While rescuing his wife, we hear him say, "I just realized the strength that can come from wanting to protect someone you love. I guess that's my special power. I don't need Satsui no Hado or anything else, not when I have so much to look forward to." He and Ryu meet up again after the latter defeats SIN head honcho Seth, and both characters realize they've finally identified the respective paths they want to walk down, Ryu's being his rejection of the Satsui no Hado, and Ken's being the synthesis of his two worlds, family and fighting. We go from that story to Street Fighter V's A Shadow Falls, where Ken basically just supports where he's needed, but doesn't do much beyond being there with Team Good Guys as they thwart M. Bison's evil plan. The family theme does come up here, however, as Ken and Eliza have now had their baby boy, Mel, who's about 5 years old. There's a special moment where Ken is saying goodbye to Mel before going to help infiltrate the evil Shadaloo base, as the daddy issue-ridden Cammy and Chun-Li watch and comment on the family dynamic. Cammy notes that Ken shouldn't have to go and should instead stay back to protect his family. Chun counters though, essentially saying that sometimes heading out to meet the threat in battle is exactly what's needed to protect one's family. Again, Ken plays a fairly minor role as the good guys beat the bad guys in A Shadow Falls, and then has another exhibition with Ryu once the threat is dealt with. Ryu, having conquered the Satsui no Hado during the events of A Shadow Falls, loses his headband as he defeats Ken. Ken picks it up and notes that he guesses Ryu doesn't need it anymore, but Ryu disagrees, saying there's no end on the road of fighting. In Street Fighter 3, which takes place chronologically after the events of Street Fighter 5, Ken and his family move out to Southern California, and he takes on a pupil in Sean Matsuda. As always, Ken meets up with Ryu and the two have their usual sparring match, which Ryu wins. Ken then continues to train Sean and Mel, handle his family and business, keep up with Ryu, and he wins another US martial arts tournament. So we already have some interesting info on the latest chapter of Ken's journey as he appears in Street Fighter 6. First off, his appearance has changed as he now looks more shaggy with a brown overcoat, work boots, and a stubble-ridden face. We've learned that Ken is on the run after being framed for what looks like the terrorist bombing in which Luke, Street Fighter 6's main protagonist, lost his father. As such, Ken has lost both his status and reputation and is now estranged from his family. Street Fighter 6 director Takayuki Nakayama offers some insider info on Ken's emerging storyline here, saying in a Game Informer interview, "Throughout the series, it seems like Ken's life has become more and more stable, and the team felt like he was losing a reason to fight. But this is a way to create that reason for him to step up. We want to create that kind of plotline that explains why Ken is important and gives him that purpose. The story will be tied to those other characters close to him." Capcom is actually working with Udon Comics to offer a rich chapter in Ken's story here via a 4-issue series. We're very much excited to see what they come up with, and imagine it'll remain tethered to Ken's overarching theme of needing to balance the two big F's, fighting and family. He'd done that already, but it's all being taken away from him now and he'll need to find a way back into harmony. The fact that he's probably going to be at odds with Luke is interesting, as Luke's father died while playing the role of the protector, and Luke surely assumes it was Ken that's the culprit. These two will almost certainly meet in a serious and fiery clash before getting things sorted out. Perhaps Luke is unwilling to hear anything about Ken being innocent, and only sees red and wants revenge when Ken comes up or appears. Despite this, perhaps Ken saves Luke from some kind of dire situation, but has to expose himself to authorities and thus sacrifice his freedom to do so. This would melt Luke's defenses and help him see Ken's innocence, and perhaps Luke going to bat for Ken is what ultimately sets him free and allows him back into society, as Luke has strong ties with the military and may be able to put a good word in. We also have to wonder how Ken's son Mel might factor into all of this. There's a brief line in Luke's Street Fighter wiki page that states that he and Mel Masters have become friends, though it's unsourced. Let us know in the comments what you think will happen with Ken in Street Fighter 6, as well as what you think of his character journey thus far. I've been John Velociraptor Guerrero for EventHubs. Thank you so much for watching, and if you like what you saw here, please be sure to check out our similar videos for characters like Juri, Chun-Li, Ryu, Akuma, and Cammy in this playlist here.